on our Btcc website. There it is. That way you can watch it at your or enjoy it at your leisure and not feel like you have to catch every last detail. You can come back and take another look at it if you wanted to give more thought to something else. So we'll just jump in for our session today. We are so grateful to have Tennisha Riley and Stephanie Serriere and some high school students joining us as well. They'll introduce themselves more fully individually, and they all come from a different educational setting in one way or another. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Tara, for introducing us and for having us here. As mentioned, the title of our workshop today is on authentic support for youth engagement. And so what we will do is take some time to introduce ourselves and have really a conversation with some of the youth who have been engaged in social justice work and get their voices on what authentic support can look like. So we will start off by just doing some introductions. So welcome to our session this afternoon. One of the things that we hope that will come out of this workshop is that we really want to frame this within thinking about youth-adult partnerships and what exactly that means. So we'll talk a little bit about solidarity today, about youth voice, and really how adults can in some ways move out of the way to think about how youth are engaging in this really important work. Before we get started, I would like to just sort of make a clear statement about solidarity, given that essentially this is what this workshop is about. So Stephanie, myself, and Jaslyn Rowan, who is a graduate student working with us, we want to just make this commitment to solidarity that as part of this presentation and as part of our continued work, we stand strong in our commitment to supporting youth activism. We acknowledge that there is much to learn from youth as they are the experts of their experiences, and that authentic support in this presentation includes the co-creation of space in which youth experiences are listened to, understood, and valued as a significant contribution to changing the world that we all live in. For the youth presenting today and the millions across the globe engaging in activism work, we care about your lives, your aspirations, and your futures. We stand in solidarity with all of the youth serving organizations and communities that believe in building the power of Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian Pacific Island youth as key for breaking cycles of oppression once and for all. And we stand in this so that we do not produce those same systems of oppression. So as we move along this presentation, what we would first like to do is to allow the youth to introduce themselves. So in whatever order, well, I'll say the order in which I can see folks. And so I see JL and Sydney, if you both could introduce yourselves, tell us a little about you and the work that you are interested in.
Hi, my name is Shale Davis. I'm a sophomore at Bloomington High School South, and I'm really passionate about like racial issues and kind of combating unequal opportunity in the school system. So like institutionalized racism, and that's something that I've been working on.
Hi, I'm Sydney Crossley. I'm also a sophomore at Bloomington High School South. Some things that I'm interested in are music and like dealing with a lot of like anti-racism things and working with that.
Sabra.
I'm Sabra Wagner. I'm a senior at Bloomington High School North, and I'm interested in combating racial discrimination and outlining like specific policies and language that supports people of color in school.
And Safine.
Hi, I'm Safine. I'm a freshman at IU, and I'm just interested in, well, mostly participating in bettering our community for any POC youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to let Jaslyn introduce themselves?
Hi, everyone. As Dr. Riley mentioned, my name is Jaslyn Rowan, and I'm currently a third-year PhD student at Indiana University. I have practical experiences working with a wide range of diverse youth within pre-K through 12th grade. Some of the supports I have provided range from groups to discuss grief, to youth participatory action research with the high school students that just introduced themselves. But a major part of my work with youth involves advocacy and demanding youth of color are provided the space to connect with peers and adults with similar experiences as them. But really defining my own advocacy is a desire to address educational policy in a way to be more inclusive of the experiences of students of color.
Awesome. Oh, and I'm Stephanie Serriere, she, her. I'm a former elementary school teacher. I've been a cross-country coach, camp counselor. This last summer, I was a master teacher at Action Civic Summer Camp, which I loved. I've led workshops like youth participatory action research workshops to over 300 high school youth. And in addition to being a local parent here in Bloomington, I'm a professor or a teacher, because I teach future teachers in the field of social studies or civic education at IUPUC. And I've been doing teacher education for about 19 years. I'm also a faculty member in IU's political and civic engagement program, and my area of research is youth civic engagement. I think it's important to mention, as Tennisha mentioned in our statement of solidarity, as we hope to stand by youth in breaking cycles of oppression that they face. For me, that involves recognizing my presence, not only as an adult with a PhD and potential for adultism galore, as another form of oppression. I also racially, as a white person, hope to stand in solidarity with youth and not let my markers of privilege overpower them.
And I am Tennisha Riley. I'm an assistant professor, faculty in IU School of Education. Specifically, I'm in the Department of Counseling and Educational Psychology. I was trained as a developmental psychologist, so I'm interested in how people sort of learn and grow across the lifespan, but particularly have worked with Black youth and families. So that's where most of my research experience is. A lot of the work that I do or approaches that I use are youth-led and community engaged. So I'm very much so involved in allowing the people to lead what's important for them. And I have some experience as a family therapist working with youth who were under supervision of Juvenile Justice Department. And so in some ways, I sort of think about how that might impact some of the work that I have. But really, a lot of what I hope to do is to build on the strengths that Black youth and families have, and in some ways help them to understand how to protect their youth as they traverse through sort of these systems of oppression. Okay, so that was introductions. What we also want to do is just sort of frame this conversation for everyone. So we're going to ask all of the youth today on the panel to talk about the history of their work. And so essentially, if you all could tell us about what has led you here to think about social justice and racial equity, whether that has been within the past 9 months or year, or whether these are things that you have thought about over some time. So I will, I guess I'll let Sabra go first to talk about generally just how is it that you have come to be in this position or to think about racial equity in these ways? Really, anyone can go. It might look like Sabra's frozen, so yeah, Safine, JL, Sydney, if you all want to contribute to the conversation first, please do.
So for me, it started, I want to say around last year. My mother has really always taught me about racism and like institutional racism, but because I grew up in a predominantly Black area, I didn't face it as much. And so when I moved to Bloomington, that's when I really saw a lot of like the oppression and and even Arizona as well, a lot of racism happening and a lot of racial incidents. And so there is a lot of incidents at our high school that like have happened due to racial inequalities and like slurs and things like that. So I really got tired and I was like, I need to do something about this. So I started a petition and we got over 500 signatures. And then I was vice president of the Black Culture Club that year. And I was working with some of the leadership, like Sydney and Safine, and they also really helped me as well. And so we met Dr. Riley and Jocelyn, and they kind of have been our mentors throughout all of this, just kind of leading us, giving us like strategies and like giving us steps to take. So that's what really got me started into this. And now it's like turned into something that I couldn't even imagine me doing. So yeah.
I would say that what made me get into like the idea of activism and engaging in it would definitely be I would say that my interest really peaked over the course of the what's it called, when we were in quarantine. I like saw a lot of like things come up about the Black Lives Matters movement, and I started to teach myself more about what was going on in my community, because growing up in a PWI, I never really thought anything of like the small microaggressions that I faced or any racist remarks that I would hear in my school. And then once I realized like that this wasn't something that I should be facing, or it shouldn't be normalized, I started to put myself more into the community and start working with like other kids in my school, like a JL and Sydney. We, helped create more of an environment safe for POC in the school. Me becoming vice president of my Black Culture Club with JL and working with Dr. Riley, Jaslyn, and Saber, I really started to like make me want to do more and put myself out there more with outreaching with other communities and working to better our community as a whole.
Thanks, Safine. I see Sabra has joined back in. So Sabra, Sydney, if you all have things to add about sort of the history of your work and how you sort of got to this point of wanting to think about social justice, think about racial equity.
Yeah, so my story is similar to Safine's. I've grown up in Bloomington all of my life. My parents are from different parts of the Indy, and my mom is from Gary, which is a predominantly Black community, and she didn't really ever experience racism. And when her and my dad got here for college, they said that they experienced the most racism that they ever have in their lives. And when JL brought this problem to me and told me about the thing, what is it called?
Anti-racism policy?
Yes, the anti-racism policy. I felt very motivated to do something about it and start joining groups and figure out this problem.
Great. Sabra, do you have anything to add?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was having technical difficulties. Can you repeat the question? I wasn't on.
Yeah, so we're talking about the history of your work. So what might have led you to want to get engaged in social justice, racial equity, to think about sort of activist work? What led you here?
Well, I guess I've grown up in Bloomington for my whole life, and it's just like around me, I've always gone to predominantly white schools. And elementary school, I was one of 2 Black students in the whole school, and they weren't in my grade level. So it was just like, people would be like, oh, is that your sister? And it was just like subtle things growing up until I got to high school that I couldn't really like tell was racism, because like there was no other like students of color around me or like teachers of color around me. So it was like, I knew it was like bad, obviously, but I was like, I don't know, maybe this is happening other places too, but I don't feel like. And then like the summer of 2020, where I just like, I don't know, I feel like I kind of realized that it's not really worth it to appeal to people who don't even like believe in your rights or you being like alive. So like, I guess that kind of like changed my perspective of it. And then last year in my junior year, there was a lot of things going on at my school related to racial discrimination. And I did a lot of research into the policies and the language in the policies. And it has made me really passionate to want to change it and adjust it so that it actually like serves students.
Great. Yeah, thank you all for sharing. I'm also going to check my adultism for a bit because I was calling on you all because this is very strange to be in this Zoom setting, even though normally we're in a group together. So I'm going to stop calling on you. You should jump in whenever you feel like to say something or discuss something. And then I also know that how difficult this is for y'all, but you can call me Tennisha. So I'm checking adultism on 2 levels because this workshop is supposed to be about authentic support. So just wanted to say that, and then I'll kick it off to Stephanie.
Okay, so at the risk of having more adultism here, but Tennisha and I have been speaking a lot about youth activists and our presence as adults and this idea of authentic supports. And we started getting into the idea of what does solidarity look like? And we went back to before 2020 to Alicia Garza with her concept of solidarity, really, and how that's different than, how that's different than allyship. And solidarity really asks us, according to Garza, is for this continuous, involved and risky and fierce and hands-on engagement with the groups, right? And it's often enacted in collaboration with minoritized people. And as adults, it asks us to, be willing to give up our positions of power, even our hierarchy and our status. And but one important thing about solidarity is that it recognizes the harmfulness of oppression. And then we just want to, a lot of youth partnerships literature still mentions allyship. And so a lot of literature mentions allyship. So we recommend, Solomon just mentioned in the chat, any recommendations. And we do have Garza's interview there, but also Grant in this link talks about it as well. But the allyship is really, allies might not engage, and this is symbolic, right? Whatever you call yourself, it doesn't matter. It's what you do, right? It's like, do you do meaningful action to change structural conditions of oppression? Allyship has been called kind of performative, and then their allies can be seen as like helping or standing up for someone who is disadvantaged per se. So I want to say that Tennisha and I's research, we should say, is funded by Indiana University's Office of the Vice President of Research and the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, their Multicultural Affairs Racial Justice Research Funds. So we have been talking to youth around mostly Central and South Central Indiana who have engaged in activism, and a few themes have come out. But our main research question is, go ahead, Marley, and advance that slide. We wonder, like, how as adults do we participate, like how Garza asks us to, right, with fierceness and hands-onness, without usurping youth's voice and expertise. So in other words, as we are here today, and Tennisha and I are writing a paper about this if you ever want it, but how do adults support ways in which that the youth describe and they feel are supportive? And a lot of the adult literature, youth literature is written by adults. So we want to make sure we're getting this right and make sure that a youth voice is in this very well. So go ahead and advance it one more, Marley. And this is our inductive themes of, we've been looking across a lot of interviews and with youth activists, and they have said that it's important, and this is why we're going to ask the youth here questions about these 4 topics. Youth describe adults as supporting their activism in a way that they learn by observing an adult in the role of an activist. In the purple, they describe how adults connect them to opportunities, right? Connect them to other people who care. If you went to a morning session with the CLB group, they were talking about sometimes an adult just connects them with another person or another group that cares about the issue. A lot of other youth, almost every single youth in our study so far has described this moment where that there is an adult that works alongside them and challenges that youth adult hierarchy. And then last, youth in our study, and especially youth of color in this last one, describe the importance of keeping safe in their work and how adults keep them safe, maybe socially or legally, and even mentioned by the CLBers this morning, that might be their reputation even. So this is why we're going to ask about 4 questions of each of these colors to the youth. And Jasmine, you can go ahead and start the first question, and Marley, you can take this down.
Great, thank you. So Safine, Sydney, JL, and Sabra in no specific order, like Dr. Tennisha mentioned. It's hard for me too. But we really appreciate you all's willingness to share your thoughts and experiences as it relates to social justice. I'm sure defining activism could look differently for everyone, but we're wondering, how have you all learned from watching adults about what activism is and what it means to be engaged in activism? Have adults modeled activism for you, and if so, in what ways?
Yeah, so definitely one person that I can say really showed me from like since I was born is my mom. And she's really taught me how to like be strong and be opinionated and always do research. And so I forgot to mention this while we were introducing ourselves, but she let me go to the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020, and I started to get educated about racial injustice and racism, and she really motivates me to continue the work that I'm doing. And I just get that from her because she grew up in a place where education wasn't really so good for her. And she inspires me because now she's a PhD candidate and she's a teacher. So she really inspires me the most.
I guess for me, like a lot of people, just like seeing a lot of strong people of color, being able to like advocate for what like changes, it's like it really inspiring, and it like makes it easier, I guess, for me to want to be able to do it because I see that somebody else has already done it. But like, I guess specifically, like we've talked to a lot of good people through the group that we met with, like Dr. Gwen Kelly. I really enjoyed talking with her because I guess like, I don't know, like the perspective I was thinking of it wasn't necessarily like, I guess like timid about it, but like she just like told me that like there's so many like opportunities and like possibilities of things that you can do. And she was like, have you not called a lawyer? Have you not gone here and here and here? And I was like, wow, like it, like I have a lot of ideas, but like I never like really like thought I could do like that many things. So I guess.
I think for me, I just started recently to like start paying attention to like what adults have actually been taking steps to like participate or engage in activism, because like I wouldn't see many adults in my life that would like speak on events happening, like that would be happening in our community or even socially in the news or something. So when I actually started learning more about it, I did like start seeing adults that cared and like wanted to help, not only like socially, but within like school systems and just, you know, even in like personal life, like my life, or even like the future of other students and other communities. And like specifically, I would say during like senior year, we met a lot of people. Sydney's mom and was definitely one of those people that I saw, and obviously Tennisha and Jaslyn. There's like, I met so many people through the Black Culture Club, that adults that like start giving us the idea to start making change and giving us ideas on how to help. So I would say I definitely think that the adults have changed my point of view on what activism looks like and what it actually is compared to what I just saw online. And I think that helped a lot with me engaging in activism. Yeah.
For me, I would say the people that I look the most up to are definitely my parents. They're just really, really active people in the community. And I think I learned that from like a very young age. And I saw my mom and my dad speaking out about certain topics like gun violence or racial injustice or just problems concerning our community. And they've put themselves in multiple groups and encouraged me to also do the same, like Black Culture Club. I've met so many amazing activists through Black Culture Club, and they've given us all great and like amazing ideas. And I think that my parents are definitely a big part of that.
Great. Yeah. I mean, also, if you all have feedback on each other's responses, that's also okay to do. I love this conversation about what it looks like when people are modeling things online, right, versus someone who's actually in your life and is helping contribute and support you all. So that's a really sort of empowering way of thinking about what modeling looks like, right? It's not just about the things that you see or the people that you read about in books, right? But about the people who are really close to you that you engage with daily. Shout out to future Dr. Davis and the Crossleys also for, socializing you in a way that has supported your activism. So I love this conversation that you all are having. Then if we can move on, the next question is about connection. And so here, we really want you to think about or share with us really how adults in your lives have connected you with other adults or other opportunities that might have supported or propelled your project, right? So in what ways, you talked about modeling, but in what ways have other adults said to you, oh, hey, here's this person. Have you thought about talking to this person? And really connected you in a way that supported your goals towards social justice and racial equity.
I would say that, sorry if everyone's talking, but I would say that specifically one adult that like started launching like that idea of like reaching out to other people to like get help was Miss Johnson. I know that she was like a really big like support for the Black Culture Club when I was there. I'm sure she still is now, but like when I was there, she continued to like not only like help with herself with like giving us like ideas and stuff to go off of, but she would also just start making those connections for us through people. And like that's obviously how I met Tennisha and Jaslyn and all the other support that I have met at IU now and continue to seek through while I'm here. But I feel like that specifically had helped me like start to see that it's not, I didn't have like one path to go on. It was more of a like, depending on what you want to do type thing. So like whatever outcome that I wanted is what like resource I would go by, and they all help at the end of the day. But that like, it not only helped with like making connections, like that's also like a future networking opportunity for me, because me being in college and also being African American female, it's like those are important resources for me to have in college. So I feel like that has impacted my life greatly, because if I had came here and not known any of those people, I don't know what I would do, honestly. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Yvonne.
Yeah, as far as like connections with adults and making connections, like my teacher told me about the research group, and I was like, this sounds like an interesting opportunity. I didn't really come in with like a lot of like specific expectations for it, but then like when I got there and we all started having conversations, it's like it really like molded like who we ended up like communicating with. And like I felt like it was super helpful because you and Jocelyn would provide resources and like help us come up with ideas of people to contact, but it wasn't just like you would contact them. Like sometimes we'd send them emails, like we'd type up the messages. And it was just, it felt like, I don't know, it's just like sometimes you don't have like the access to be able to be like, oh, I want to talk to a reporter about this, or I want to talk to somebody who's an expert in this. And it makes everything like a lot easier. And it feels so much easier when you already like have an easier way to get to it.
Yeah, great.
I would say that Tennisha and Jeslyn have opened us up to like so many people that can help us and give us feedback, and like giving us like emails or just like introducing us to people that they think would be helpful in this whole process. And they've been really great with that.
Yeah, so pretty much everyone said everything that I was gonna say. But
You
I
should have
guess
went
I'll word it-
first.
I guess I'll word it differently. So basically, yeah, Miss Johnson is one of our sponsorships for Black Culture Club. She's also a counselor, so she's really helpful. She gave us a lot of connections, and that's how we met Tennisha and Jocelyn. I can't say Tennisha. Can I just say Dr. Riley?
Sure.
No, actually.
Whatever makes you comfortable.
Okay. All right. And so yeah, that was really helpful. Dr. Riley and Jocelyn have been such a great help. Like they've helped us through this whole process, and I'm so grateful for them. Yeah, everyone else pretty much said everything else.
Yeah, so it sounds like the way that you all are, and you can correct me, the way that you all are talking about these connections is really that oftentimes it starts at one place, one person that you know, and then it sort of webs out into multiple people, multiple places and connections, right? So that has really been helpful in those connections, in sort of making those connections with other adults. The other question that we have that you all somehow answered as well, and can give some feedback on, is about how adults have worked alongside you without overpowering you or taking over particular projects. So what are ways that has happened for you?
Well, I think specifically in the YPAR group that we were in, like at the beginning, we all like set like expectations for how we like wanted to communicate, I guess. Like it was, I don't know, we're all on the same level, and we all have mutual like respect for each other. So this is how we can like have a productive conversation, because we know that no one's like above another person. So like,
Yeah,
I don't know, it's like even if you are like a principal or something, or like somebody who's like has a lot of majors, it's like just like being able to speak to you on like the same level, and like knowing that they have like respect for you, I guess.
yeah, so we set some ground levels, right, to talk about like, what does the space look like, what do we talk about, how do we talk to each other? Again, I asked you all to call me Tennisha. That's okay if you're not comfortable. We'll stick there. But also, I guess other ways that adults have worked alongside you instead of overpowering you. Have you had this experience in other settings, or different experiences?
I think, oh wait, Stefan, you unmuted your mic.
It's okay. You can go ahead and talk if you it's fine.
I feel like we can all talk at the same time. We can all have the mics muted.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say that I only recently started working in groups with I don't want to say collaborating with adults, but with adults overlooking, I guess. And I'll go back to Black Culture Club with Miss Johnson. She also made sure that she let us create what we wanted and outcomes for the club, because when it came to events, fundraisers we wanted to throw, adults we wanted to invite, or not even adults, but how we wanted to go about anything with the club, it was something that we all had to agree on, and it benefited us, well, me, because it was it wasn't something, if it actually felt like something I was working for and that we were working together with, and it felt more empowering, because for her to set aside let us she definitely helped with don't get me wrong, she helped with everything was the way, but when it came to coming together and doing things that we needed to do for the club, when we worked together, it felt more of a payoff when it came all together at the end, and it felt better that we were all working on that thing together, and it was just a nice way. And it felt the same with YPAR also, when Tennisha and Jaslyn, they never overtook anything, and it never felt like we weren't putting in the work, and it was a nice way of letting us get those accomplishments for ourselves, just rather than actually being controlled and doing something, being told to do something, basically.
Yeah, this sounds a lot how Derek Bell, lawyer, philosopher, has talked about interest convergence, right? And that adults didn't have their own agenda for why you should be doing things. They collaborated you in a way that benefited you as a youth, and benefited the world broadly through social justice. Anyone else think about how adults have worked alongside you instead of overpowering you?
Yeah, I guess oh. JL, go ahead.
Okay, so NAACP has really
Girl,
been.
I was about to say that.
I'm sorry. NAACP has been very helpful to us as well. They are a perfect example of them being adults, but also not overpowering us. They gave us connections, but we got our connections through Dr. Riley and Jocelyn. So they're another example of that. They just really give us a lot of insight, and I think that's helpful when it bring different types of perspective. So I like that they don't overpower us, but they also can give us feedback and insight so we can improve kind of our work and what we want to do.
Yeah, I would also add to that, NAACP is invited us to Zoom meetings, and they've kind of let us take over meetings and show them what we're up to and this whole process, and they've been helpful. They've also made us feel not we're being lectured, but also made us feel welcomed and together as more and meetings and stuff, and they've been really helpful.
Yeah, it's they kind of made us feel like we were part of the conversation, and when we're on the meetings, it feels like they're asking questions in a way that's not looking down on us, I guess. It's they genuinely want to know answers, and they want to hear our perspective on it. So it was a good experience, because it made me feel like I wasn't just a child, and that my experiences weren't invalid, I guess.
Great. Okay, so we got the warning that we have 5 minutes left. We have one more question, and of course we wanted the attendees to ask questions. So Stephanie, I'll let you kick it off. You decide how to spend the last 5 minutes.
Let's see. So the last question we have is about protection, right, Tennisha?
Yeah. Mhm.
Can I just have one of the youth tell us how adults have tried to keep you safe or kept you safe, either socially, legally, reputation-wise, physically? Somebody's talking with, okay,
I was talking to Sydney, but yeah, so Dr. Riley and Jaslyn have been, like I said, have just helped us all throughout this process of like creating an anti-racist policy. And they've given us resources like how to hold a protest or how to you know, different types of protests. You know, Jaslyn, she makes these Google Docs and like teaches us like ways to protect ourselves so we're uncomfortable with what we're doing, because when we like as youth, when we go and talk about these things, there's always a risk, like some type of risk. And so I really think they are like an example of how to like just keep us safe and like the protocols we need to take.
Awesome. Thanks for elucidating that last theme that we were talking about. I think you've kind of been the teachers for all of us adults in the room of tangible actions that adults can take to support youth in social justice work and activism work. So yeah, let's just open it up to questions from the audience, mostly for the youth, hopefully.
Feel free to unmute yourself and jump in with a question if you'd like. Maybe while folks are thinking about what's coming to mind for them, I'll ask, you know, we talk about conditions. So in this particular case, we're thinking about what are the conditions that we can create that bring youth voice forward. You've mentioned the Black Culture Club. As far as I know, that happens a lot during Panther Plus, which is a specific time of the day where students have an opportunity to gather in different groups of different sorts. Can you tell us anything more about like the logistics or like those kinds of structural things that have given you space for this to happen?
I guess I don't go to South, but I go to North. But like at my school, I think that providing like a safe space and just like in that space, the expectations, like I have like a few teachers that like let you know that like throughout the day, like if there's something going on, like come and talk to me. And like, especially last year, there was a lot of situations where people were being like racist and I felt like unsafe throughout the day. And I would be able to go down there and just have like an open conversation about it. And they would listen to me and they'd provide their like input. And it was like, it just felt like a safe space to go during the day, during school.
Yeah, so me and Sydney are vice presidents of Black Culture Club this year, and Safine was a vice president of Black Culture Club last year, and it gave us a lot of room for discussion. A lot of the students there, we would like discuss and have like these open discussions, and we would be able to like voice our opinions and like in a respectful way, in a respectful manner. And I felt like it was a safe haven for those students who couldn't always project their student voice and didn't feel heard. And so it was a way to gather and kind of like communicate in a safe area.
Yeah, I would add to that. Black Culture Club was like a really big part in like making me feel welcomed. Like not many people at my school obviously look like me. And just seeing like other students, like my peers, and having them like relate to certain situations or like making me feel welcomed and Ms. Johnson has been a really big part of that as well.
Stephanie, we're coming to the end of our time. Do you or others have any final thoughts that you wanted to share with us?
Well, we sure did. And we could lead with that in 30 seconds or so, Tennisha, or you pick youth to have any final thoughts.
Actually, we'll let do any of you.
Do the youth have any final thoughts you want to use in this last 30 seconds here?
Thank you guys so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you all. I mean, the amount of effort that you've put in that we haven't seen is something commendable, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. So thank you for your time today. I know some of us might have thoughts we want to share. If you want to stay on right here, we're moving on to our Connecting the Dots session. It's on this link. So anybody who stays on this link is going to be in our 2 to 2:30 session. And we welcome you to stay and share thoughts from this session or from other things that have come up for you throughout the day. Others from the other link that chose the other session to go to right now are going to be joining in here. And Hannah's going to and lead us in this next space. But I thank everybody for your attendance, your attention, and the intent that you bring to our community. And I hope to see you around sometime soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Bye.